Okay, welcome back to episode number 26. How you guys doing?
Woo!
I'm doing great.
Happy freaking Friday.
Exactly. So you're here with myself, Olu, Shuwal, Pabilo, and Daniel. P sounding hella quiet.
P, you're right
You
there,
there?
big man.
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm just finished off some food.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. So on this week's episode, we're gonna be talking about one of the questions we got from our listeners. If we could talk to our younger version, so when we were like 20, what advice, what lessons have we learned that we would pass back to our younger self? And then we'll do the book review, which will be done by myself, Olu. So stay tuned and let's get started.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
What would you tell your younger self?
So how young are we talking, Olu? What age is the reference? Let's get the framework.
So the person said in your early 20s.
In your early 20s. Okay. And can I ask what age that person is who was asking?
The person was turning 30 this year.
Because this gives some
So similar to us.
Okay, cool.
So similar to us, I think most of the people in the group are turning 30
No, we're not.
this
I'm
or
not.
next year.
Oli, you're turning
This or
30
next
this year. Are you sure you didn't submit the question yourself?
No, I like to hang around with people my age or older. So I don't know why.
I'm glad it was older,
That makes
not
a
younger.
difference. So yeah, what do you guys think about the question? Firstly, I guess the question only really comes when I received the question. The first thing I thought was the question only really comes when you look at your current situation and you feel like there might have been certain opportunities or things that you could have done differently. I feel like if you're content in your current situation, you guys can let me know, but if you're content in your current situation and you feel like you're developing and going in the right direction, that's not a sort of question you would probably think about. What do you guys think?
I
No,
disagree.
I disagree. Like 2000%. Because
100%.
I think
Yep.
no matter how well you think you've done at this particular stage, there's always things you could have done differently, maybe for the better, in the past. So I hear what you're trying to say, but I still think, despite your level of success, there are things you could have definitely done differently. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. I think in life,
Go on.
no matter, it doesn't matter what you've achieved. There are always things that you want to tell you, because even if you've got to a level that you want to be at,
Or
you might have told you-
even beyond that level.
yeah, you might have said, I should have worried less. I shouldn't have worried about that. That was very small. Or I should have gone all in on that. It's okay not to be hurt to some degree, whether it's love or friendships. And always there's, I guess in life there's the life you probably the life you probably wished for, the life you've lived, and the life you wish you lived. But you can't understand the life you wish you lived unless you live the life that you lived. If you
But again, if you're saying, I didn't really get that quote, but
No. I'm with you. I think Daniel, say that one again because it's powerful. But
it's not a quote. I'm just talking.
it's not a quote,
I'm
but
saying-
it's like a riddle. It's like a riddle.
It's just, if you think about it, in life, there's the life that you want to live. Then there's currently the life you're living. And in respect to your question, there's the life you wish you lived earlier, or the life you wish you lived.
Okay.
In the sense of when you're looking retrospectively, there are things you wish you did differently.
Okay. So
But you can't understand. But you can't understand that until you've gone through what you've been through.
but isn't that my point?
Okay.
as
It makes
in-
sense. Makes sense.
So what I was saying, Daniel, was like with that message and what you just said, it's all based on the fact that the life that you wish you had.
No, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily a negative thing, because it doesn't. You're talking from, my understanding is, you're talking from a perspective of, if you're not where you want to be, you kind of wish you did things differently. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
So I see as two. If you're not where you wish you were, or if you're not content in your current situation, or you don't believe that you're on the right path to where, because I see life as there's an element of it where it's a discovery, and I realize that some mistakes that you might have previously made or that you've gone through has allowed you to become a better person.
Sure. What do you think? Because you agree with Olu.
No, I did. I was more. I
No,
was,
he didn't.
no, I was,
No,
no, it's not that. It's not that.
you
It's not
don't
that I
agree.
even
You're
disagree
just
with.
going. You're going. So sorry. I assume that you agreed. But
No,
what are your thoughts?
so that was more in terms of acknowledging the point and listening. So
Okay,
that
okay.
was just me showing my active listening. But I think I was. I think you can ask people of any levels of success. Is there anything that you would have done differently, or what bit of advice would you give to the younger version of you? And I've actually asked that question to a lot of mentors that I have in the professional space and even personally. I don't think there's been one person that has said, just keep doing whatever you're doing. A lot of people, even the most successful people that I have asked, have always come back with, don't be in such a rush all the time. As long as you stay focused, try and enjoy the moment that you're going through, whatever you're going through, but you will eventually get there. Because the common feedback that I've heard is sometimes if you're trying to rush everything to get to a certain position, once you're there, you look back and you realize that all that time that you could have spent enjoying going through that process, which we've spoken about in previous episodes, about looking at more the process versus the end goal, then you kind of rush that and you can't enjoy that as much anymore. So I'm kind of in between both of you guys, I think. I think
Yeah. Just to tap on that point. So I've also heard through several levels of success, they wouldn't have changed the scenarios that they're in, but perhaps what they would have done in that scenario, they perhaps would have changed. So maybe it's the answer is somewhere in the middle between what me and Daniel were saying and what Ollie's point, which is I wouldn't necessarily change how I grew up and where I went to school and university and every these kind of things, or where I've traveled. But in that phase, I could have perhaps done something differently. So it's more from that standpoint. But I wouldn't necessarily look back and say I want a whole new
because
life.
you have to have the right balance. Because I think my biggest thing is, and I think Daniel might have mentioned it before, was, or I think Daniel Shuel was that living in the moment is, I think, the biggest one when I think about certain things. Because a lot of times we think about the future, or we think about, okay, what next, what next, what next. And if I just think about myself, if I was to sort of give myself the advice and what I've been trying to take going forward is living more in the moment. So do I say, okay, previously I didn't live in the moment? And because I'm thinking, if I told my younger self, hey, live more in the moment, I'm like, would I have listened until I gained that sort of experience and realized, oh, you know what? You need to live in the moment. Yeah.
I think that's probably similar to what the point that I guess Daniel's trying to make. And Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. How you're saying that you kind of have to go through what you go through to realize,
Of course.
looking back, what you missed or what you didn't miss.
Yeah, in simple terms, life is lived forwards but understood backwards.
Jeez. Right, say that one again. Say that one again. Say that one again.
Yeah. Perfect. Life is lived forward.
Wait. Say again. Say again.
Life is lived forward but understood backwards.
Come on, man. So I got a few points here as to what I would tell my younger self. The first thing I listed down was to master the art of helping and serving more people. As we go through our journey now, we understand that one of the biggest values that you can have within yourself is your ability to look out for others, help others, because you know it always comes back around. And growing up, there was always this notion of me, put myself first. I need to get it because I don't have it. So before you get it, I need to have it. There was always that type of thinking. Like, for example, take a basic example in school. You didn't let anyone copy your test or copy your exam.
No, I'm sure I'll let you copy some of my also dissertation. I'm sure.
No. Why would I copy from you?
Yo, P.
No, if you think about-
PV, the reason you copied is because the first class. That's why you copied.
No. But if you think about how many times, let's say university.
Pete, I beg you pass my notes back. You still got them from 2011.
Listen. Let me. I tell you guys now. Yeah, none of your stuff worked. You get me? I had to figure out after.
Is it?
They didn't work. It didn't work, but no, it's because also I think this is something which would have been great to have mastered at an early age, because like I hear one of the and I've mentioned it before, one of the quotes from Will Smith. He says that I have seen the heights of all parts of areas in life, from the cars to the lifestyle to traveling, what you name it, he's seen it. But he says the one thing that tops everything is being useful to others. So, if I could tell my younger self at early 20s, I would say always do everything to help others and serve, because it will come back around, and you'll be in a much better position. And I think when I look at myself now, I know there have been a number of opportunities that have been hindered because I've thought about myself too much.
And is that something that you're changing, like going forward? Like that's something you're working on?
Of course, yeah, of course. It's a slow progress, but slow progress is better than no progress. But it's a tough one, because if you need to see a lot of examples of people doing it, understand it, and you can't do it. You can't fake it. It has to be genuine. So it's also about wanting to serve people in something which you're passionate about.
Yeah.
If you just put yourself out and say, "I want to help, I want to help, I want to help," because you know it's going to come back, it will be read by others. So, yeah, that would be that was my first thing I put down.
What about yourself, Shua? Do you have any that you would tell your younger self?
I'm just kind of reflecting now, because I mean, on one hand, I could have said when I was at university, when I first started, I should have focused a bit more from the beginning. But on the flip side, because I tasted that, what felt like a massive failure after that first year, that helped me kind of reassess everything and readjust, which maybe in the long term had even bigger benefit. Probably, and I'm just thinking now, probably one of the areas I would tell myself is, I think very early on in my career, I was focused a lot on my individual career and where I was moving. And I felt like I was always there to help my parents whenever they needed something. But then probably, I think I've shared in the podcast before that my father had his health scare and had a stroke. Now that happened because of multiple kind of health issues that he had in the past, and lack of diet and exercise. But maybe if I was a bit closer and more aware of the situation that he was going through from a personal health standpoint, then I could have helped him a little bit more. So I don't know what the letter to my young, it would be basically the feedback that I would give is, don't take for granted the fact that as well as you getting older and you focusing on the life that you're trying to build, that your parents are getting older as well. And if you want that relationship to last as long as you would like, then ensure that you invest in those relationships and help them health-wise as much as you would invest in yourself. So that's probably what I would say.
Cool.
But what are you saying? What are you saying, Ollie? What's your
I think the moment one is one, sort of just living in the moment. I think a lot of times the younger self, life would be going good, but sometimes I'll be looking beyond that, like, okay, I can't wait to so and so time, to this, to this, to this. And looking back, sometimes like now what I do is just try and pause and just look back and say, yo, that was a great moment. And just truly try and acknowledge that moment as you're going through it. Even when it's got difficult periods. I think there was a book, I think it was either Pabilo or Daniel Bailey that recommended it to me. Subtle Way of Not Giving a FUCK, where it was just talking about in life, everyone's going to have problems. And it's just really the problems that you're willing to deal with. So me just understanding that life is just going to be full of problems. It's just, that's a constant. There's always going to be some sort of problem. There's always going to be something that you're trying to solve, but just enjoy the phase of life that you're in, because it could be worse, it could be better, but just enjoy it, because those are going to be the moments that you cherish.
And is that something that you've realized in the last couple of years, or is this something that's gradually growing over time? Or?
So this is something I've realized more in the last sort of 2-3 years. I think coming off traveling as much as I used to, and now being based more in London, I think now I'm like, oh shoot, maybe I should have slowed down a little bit more and like taking it in more. So sometimes I'll be on my phone just going through old pictures and being like, that was amazing. Like, so I think it's just making sure I just live in that moment, because there's going to be a time. Right now, we're all blessed to be young and healthy. So just experiencing and living in that moment, because there's going to be a time when we're 50, 60 and we're like, I miss when I was 30 and stuff like that. So just living in the moment is the big thing.
Of course, that means last but not least, Daniel Johnson.
I thought you had forgotten about me, to be honest.
Mate, who would ever forget about Daniel Johnson, bro? Come on.
Well, the first thing I would tell my younger self is
fix your face.
No, not fix your face. Okay, you got me. You got me. You got me. You got me. You got me.
Shout out, Melissa. By the way, that clip is. I've been getting funny DMs about that.
Yeah,
one.
do you know how many I've been getting as well?
Yo, you know what we need to do?
bro.
You know what we need to do? We need to trademark that, put that on a t-shirt. Like, we need to put that on a t-shirt on the website. Stick to your face.
Fix your face.
100%. Once that online store is up and running, looking at Pabilo Timber, that's another merchandise idea. All right, cool.
Daniel, what were you saying? Someone was sure making some noise, cuz. Daniel, what you saying?
What about what?
Nah, go on. Your next thing.
Yeah. My first thing I'll tell my younger self is don't ever compare yourself to other people. That's number one. The other things, some of these things I'm going to share, some I've done, but I would have reinforced the message to my younger self. But also, I'm also thinking around the age group of like 17 to 21 rather than just early 20s. I'm thinking about my late teens as well. Save more.
Save more.
Save more money.
You've been spending wild then.
Save more.
Yeah, but let's keep it real. I mean, Daniel's been living the high life since
high
16.
life, man. I'm sure he did his driving lessons in like an Audi convertible. Right?
That's an interesting one.
Now I'm being transparent. I would have saved more. I'll continue and do adventures, take adventures, travel, and have new experiences.
If I save any more, I'll end up on the streets, cuz homeless. Go on.
Do adventures, try new things. I would have told more people around me how much I appreciate them and love them. That's something I do more often now. That I've taken.
I haven't received that text.
I haven't received any of that.
Daniel.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
I haven't received that text.
I was gonna say, Daniel. Thanks for that text you sent me a couple of weeks.
No worries, sure. P, you never picked up the phone call. You've never picked up the phone.
Stop lying, bro. Come on.
Also, don't be afraid to fall in love. Even if it doesn't work out, don't be afraid. Because you're at that young age, 20, in early 20s, there's someone you might like. Don't be afraid to tell them how you feel. And what's the worst they can say? No. But then you get over life, you move on. Yeah, sorry? Yeah.
That's one that I agree as well.
You're too scared to say. You're too scared to say it on yours.
Shut up.
Touch the nerve, touch the nerve, boy. This podcast is heating up.
I know, everyone's in their feelings this evening. My God.
Before you latch onto that one,
I think we should pass it on to Olu. Olu, continue.
No. I just say I agree.
No.
Everyone trying to put me on the spot.
Between a second, but what I mean, don't be afraid to fall in love. That's what I would say to myself. Don't be afraid, because when you're in a situation, you're always thinking, what if this, what if that, but what if not? And the only way you can understand or the only way you can get an answer is by actually expressing how you feel, tell people how you feel, and it helps you. And if it's a no, it's a no, but then you move on.
But Daniel,
so Olu, what happened with you?
How do you protect your heart?
Huh?
How do you protect your heart?
But to love and to be loved, you have to be vulnerable.
That's true, man. I wish I met you when I was 17 and you told me that, man.
I'm glad I didn't. We might not be friends right now.
But that's one I definitely agree with.
That's probably one thing I would say, especially when I talk to like younger cousins and etc. and they tell me about someone or whatever it may be. I'll be like, have you told the person? They're like, no. Why not? Oh, I'm scared. But the thing is, you're always going to be stuck in that fearful state until you say how you feel. And something my parents always told me, not relating to females or anything, but it was relating to females.
How many females have they been advising you about?
Where are you going with this, Mr. Johnson?
They're talking in general of the opposite sex, of saying, remember, no one can read your mind. If you're thinking something, say it, because you can't read someone else's mind. They can't read your mind. And that just helps in communication.
Oh, Daniel, that's so true. I agree. Totally agree.
Olu, do you want to add a bit more to that?
Yeah, Olu, I feel like you're holding back a few things.
No, not holding back anything.
Because from the start of this recording, you've been a bit mellow, and maybe it's the topic that we're discussing, and it's bringing back some memories. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Maybe you would have told your younger self a lot of things.
No, not really.
Oh, man, that is funny. That is funny. That is
No,
funny,
but
man.
I saw this really cool Instagram post, and I just wanted to get you guys thought about this. Be who you needed when you were younger. So be the person that you needed when you were younger. So,
What, to someone
yeah,
else?
to someone else. So what you guys
Okay.
doing to sort of advise the younger generation so that, because I feel like a lot of times we need to pass down a lot of the lessons that we've learned, mistakes. How do you help like the younger generation? What you guys doing in terms of that?
I'm being honest and transparent with them and open with them, because when as for example, today at work, there's someone who's on work experience, and he was asking me what I do, etc. And he asked, "Is this something you always wanted to do?" And I said, loosely speaking, no, it wasn't. I told him what I
Oh,
studied at A level.
what a question.
I
Bloody
told
hell.
him I told him what I studied at A level. I told him what I wanted to do at university. There were a number of things I wanted to do. I told him what I ended up doing, how I ended up in that situation, and I told him what I do now. Because what help is it if I kind of skip parts of the story and not transparent and open with him? That doesn't help him, because he's at a crossroads at the moment of whether he's finished his GCSEs, whether he wants to go into an apprenticeship work or university college. But I told him when I finished my GCSEs, I wanted to do A levels in the hope of going into university. I told him the subjects I chose: biology, chemistry, and business studies, because of the subjects that interested me. I then told him what I thought of doing at university, but what I ended up doing at university, and then how I ended up here. But
Did you tell him? Did you tell him
Daniel,
that you're doing a podcast as well? That
no, no, I
has all of
didn't.
this information
Daniel,
available.
No, I didn't.
Daniel,
But then, yeah,
switching gears for a second. What did you get in biology and chemistry?
I got CC.
Okay, you done all right, boy.
Not what I wanted.
I think P's talking in comparison to him.
Correct.
Okay, but the thing is, I think I had half an hour with him. But the person who was looking after him, I messaged her after, said, she asked me how did I find it. I said, well, I hope I was useful and etc. Because the time was short, and I tried to be very basic in what I said I'd do because I didn't want to confuse him. She said, oh no, he really liked it. He liked you. And I thought about it. I said, actually, in fact, if he wants to spend more time with me, and it doesn't have to be work related, but could be about anything about what his options are at the moment now he's done his GCSEs, I'm happy to speak to him. Because one thing I understand and one thing I recognize is, for a black young male, most often than not, they don't have a positive role model. Number two, they don't necessarily like to speak about what they're challenged with, or they don't always know the different options available to them. And number three, they don't always have someone who can help them. So I want to make myself available no matter what, whoever it is, that let me be honest and transparent and open with them and help you where I can, because I may not have the answers, but someone I know may have the answer or be able to help you down the route you want to go.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing in a nutshell.
No, that's amazing, bro.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you guys are no strangers to this. Myself and Shaw are running the mentoring program. We've been doing it for the last 7 years. Every year we have at least minimum about 7 interns. This year we've got 18 interns, and it's actually a privilege to be in a position where you've gone through the experiences yourself, and just like Daniel was saying, you can help to be very transparent and open with these interns who are looking to decide on what they want to do with their career, decide on what they want to do with their life. And it's really great to be in a position where you can share different perspectives. So I think our only aspiration is to see how we can scale this up to not only doing it for, 10 plus, but 100 plus, 1,000 plus. So yeah, I have this saying that resonates with me is like, pass on your advantage. So we all have an advantage. We've all been grateful for that advantage, and I think it's a responsibility to continuously pass it on to others so they can actually benefit as well.
And I think even closer to home, I think the ones that have got younger siblings as well. I think when I went to university, I was the first one from my house to go. So it was a big deal even for my mum to let her oldest son move to London for university. If I think about family friends at that time, no one had done that. So it was kind of groundbreaking for my parents to allow that, to then go on and have a career abroad, etc. And now whenever coming through myself, whenever I speak to family, friends, or younger cousins and nephews, I always tell them the benefits that I've had from moving to another city for university, moving abroad. And this year, just building on the point that Pabilo made of the interns that join every year, we've been very closely working on hiring these interns. And actually, this year we've had my youngest brother who came through. He's doing a formal 3-month summer internship. If he's listening, shout out. And also another one of his friends from Portsmouth, who's also an Asian demographic, has come through, and he's the first from his household to study at university and move abroad. So going through the same footsteps that I've been through. And just to note, I have not been biased in the process. I was completely out of their hiring process. But going through that and seeing the impact that I've had in my family's lives and knowing the impact that they will have now in their immediate circle's life, just trying to pay that forward to the next generation. And you hope that they continue to do that as well.
Yeah, I was part of the hiring process. I was very biased. And it is what it is. You got to put them on.
And Pabilo, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's called it's called nepotism.
Because if it was your younger brothers, if it was your younger brothers, there would be no application process. So, two other things. I wanted to add 2 other points I had on this list as to what I'll tell my younger self. The second one was to understand very clearly that idleness is a disease, and to always find ways to use your unused time. So, spending time, when you have weekends that you don't do anything, or your weekdays, the evenings in your weekdays don't have anything on the agenda. Get in the habit and the routine of packing out your days and building that muscle of understanding. I always need to be busy with doing something productive.
Nah.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Daniel's been listening to that episode on how to say no effectively.
But okay. Do you want to explain why you said no?
Sorry, I felt like throwing it out there. So.
Yeah, go ahead. Because if we're talking about, go ahead.
No, I just thought. No, I meant. I felt like just making that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think. I think. So a lot of the problems that arise in London and other parts of the world is because the youth, or if 20 plus, doesn't have their agenda is not packed out enough with things that are productive and things that can keep them busy. When you've got too much time on your hands to think, that's where, there's even in that book, Outwitting the Devil, that unused space can be used for things which are not productive. And so idleness is a disease. And the third thing I had on the list was try and figure out your one thing really, really early. I think the world needs more experts than generalists. So this whole idea of being a jack of all trades is not going to work. So if you can figure out your one thing, whatever it may be, as early as possible. Imagine if you was 15 and someone said to you, find your one thing. You would spend a lot of your time, developing a framework or a thinking framework to get to that point. And then,
but that line is easiest. Like, how would you find that one thing?
Oh, I don't know. Now you're making me think. But I think no. I think the point I make, I have to give it a think. But what I'm basically saying is, if someone had planted that seed early, 13, 14, 15, you would have clocked up your 10,000 hours, become an expert, and then you can actually really add value in that particular space. So I think that would have been a very valuable piece of advice to be given at younger age.
Yeah, I think that one's tough because my point would be try as many things as possible at a younger age, like fail quick. Like,
yeah, but you're doing it to see what you like. So that would be a way to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think is try as many things as possible as soon as possible, fail quick, and take more risk would be the ones on my list where I'm like.
And just so you made me think now, one way, and I saw an exercise that could work for those that are listening. It's kind of figuring out where it intersects the circle. So they say, draw one circle, and in that circle, write down your strengths. Then draw another circle next to it and write down what people compliment you as you walk through your life. And on the third circle, write down what you can effortlessly discuss on a Saturday afternoon. And where those circles intersect is what you should spend most of your time doing. And perhaps could be your one thing.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another episode where we go into how do you find your one thing or your specialty. Okay.
All right, cool. Actually, guys, I had one question for you, right? I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add on it before we potentially move to the book review. But the question I had is, if you had the choice, of $15 million given to your bank account today,
Yeah.
Or you can go back to being 18 years old, knowing everything that you know now, but you can go back to being
15
18
million.
years old. I didn't finish. Right.
Give me that 15 million.
So you go back. So let's keep the numbers easy. So you're 28 years old. So you have the choice of getting paid $50 million now, or you can go back 10 years to when you were 18, just before you start uni. And everything that you know at that point, and everything that happens historically since then will all happen again. But the only person in the world that knows what has happened in the last 10 years is you. What would you take?
I'm going. Go on, Daniel. Daniel, go ahead.
That's like still 15 million.
You know why? You know why it's a tough question, because you were still young. So 50 million now
Yeah, we're still young.
is where you want to be.
No, but this is the thing. But Pete, so you've got back. You're
Sure,
18.
what I'll
right?
do is
But
I'll go.
No, I'm going back to 18 because
I'll go
I've got
back.
11 years. I've got 11 years, and I will 100% surpass 15 million with what I know today.
If I know, like, okay,
Listen,
Bitcoin,
15
if I
million.
knew Bitcoin was gonna blow up, I would have sold it.
Hold up, you're rewinding back to 18 with that same bank balance, yeah?
Hey,
No, I'm telling you.
Let me finish.
Same. No, but you know, so the way. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Daniel. But you're going back. You're back. The only thing that's changed versus then versus now is you're 18 years old again, but you've got the mind of a 28-year-old, and you've learned everything that you've already learned, and only you in the world knows everything.
No, I think
that's
you know what you
happening.
got to do, Short. I think you got to raise the age, because I'm just thinking about it now. Why go back at 18?
why are you guys so difficult? Just answer Shua's
Wait,
question.
no,
like-
because the thing is,
Answer the question.
the thing is,
Answer that question.
I'm starting to side with Daniel. Right now, I'm super young. 15 million with what I know, we can take off right now. Why you got to basically raise the age now? It needs to be something at the age of 40 and 50 million versus 18 and now. Because
No, but you know,
because
go ahead,
right now,
and then I'll explain.
right now we're super young. So if you and I personally feel like I'm just now understanding what I need to do.
Yeah, but
if
that's
you
the
give-
thing. Imagine you have that understanding.
Fam,
Fam, take that 15 million, you can still make Forbes 30 under 30. Simple.
Yeah, but imagine all that understanding that you have now, and all that wisdom that you have now about the books, about everything, investing, all of that. You will still have that at the age of 18.
You know, Shua.
On top of that,
Yeah.
sorry, just one final point. On top of that, you know that Bitcoin is going to blow up, so you can
Okay,
spend
yeah,
£100
okay, yeah,
on
come on,
Bitcoin.
come on.
You don't need to explain your question.
You know that Facebook is going to blow up, so you can take that flight to Boston, find Mark Zuckerberg, and get him to be your boy. There's so many options.
No, but it can't. You can't. The thing is, you can't. That can't be the criteria, because then what you're basically saying is like you're going back in time. It needs to be. It needs to be going back at the age of 18.
So for all the
with all the
listeners,
ideas,
for all the listeners,
we don't know anything
you
about
can tell
Bitcoin
how
and Facebook and this
difficult
kind.
it is for us to decide and move forward.
So 15 million, simple. Hey, Schwab, why that 15 million?
Daniel's answered. Thank you. At least there was one decisive person that answered it.
Honest, you didn't have to finish that question. Give me that 15 million.
For me, I'll take the 15 because I'm still very young.
Jeez.
I would actually go back to 18.
Okay.
You can even give me 10.
Yo, I'm not even too.
I got plans. I got net present value. I can make that triple up.
No, I think I'm taking 15 now, B.
Trust me.
Yeah, I'm
Trust me.
I'm
Sure,
taking 15 now.
going back. You're the only person going back.
If you change the criteria, then I think differently.
Yeah, he doesn't need to change his criteria. It was his question. I don't know why y'all change his criteria.
Cool. Well, we got the answers anyway, so go ahead, Ollie.
Cool. So thank you very much. You've all heard about what we're gonna. Oh, I'm not Olu, but anyway, you know I'm not Olu. Thank you very much for listening to what we'll tell our younger selves, and now we're gonna pass it over to Olu for this week's book recommendation.
Thank you, Daniel Johnson. Okay, so on this week, the book that I'm going to be talking about is called Misbehaving: The Making of Behavioral Economics by a person called Richard Thaler. So, has any of you read?
Swear down, that's the book I was gonna review next week.
Really? Have you? So you read the book?
No, I
You
haven't.
snooze, Daniel. You snooze, you
Okay.
lose, bro. It's easy.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm joking. I'm playing. No, I haven't heard of the book.
No. So I don't know why you said that, but let's continue. So the book really looks at how people make decisions. So how do people make decisions? Why people buy certain things? And the way the book tries to address it is a lot of economics, or the book calls it econs. So econ is just someone that's very logical, very they weigh out the pros and cons, they calculate everything. Most books, when it talks about behavior, follow someone that's very logical and very informed. Yeah. But the world doesn't exist of these sort of people. It's full of human beings who sometimes make decisions based on emotions, sometimes makes decisions when they're not so knowledgeable. We could take Brexit as one topic, or how people voted for Brexit without being very informed. Like what they class as an econ would have been someone that would have weighed off all the options and would have said, okay, Remain, for example. So that's really what the book sort of looks into. And the reason why I picked up this book, I was recommended by a friend, and I've just started to get a great interest in like people and what decisions and how people make decisions, because I think it's something that's very important in every stage of your life, if it's work wise or just your personal life, because you can really start to understand the logic or the how people might not be logical in certain decisions, and you can also play towards it. So the book goes about one example. I want to ask you guys this question, so get you guys involved. So Daniel, let me pick Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say you
Yeah.
purchased a bottle of wine 5 years ago. Yeah, for
Yeah.
$10.
Sounds like he's opening
Yeah,
one
sounds
now.
like you just opened one, right? So let's say you purchased a bottle of wine 5 years ago for
Yeah. A
£10.
Chardonnay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
£10. Now
Oh, yeah.
that bottle of wine is worth £100. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
come up to you and say, "Hey, Daniel, I want to buy that bottle off you for 10. It's for 100. Sorry, would you sell it to me?"
Yeah. For £100 in 5
Yeah,
years.
you
No.
wouldn't. Okay.
No.
Now, let's say you go to, let's say you drink this wine. So you drink this bottle of wine, you enjoy the bottle of wine. If you were to go to a restaurant, would you pay £100 for that same bottle of wine?
What, same age?
Just, yeah, same age, same bottle of wine. So you've already drank yours. Would you go back and buy that exact same bottle for 100?
If I enjoyed it, definitely.
Let's say
Yeah.
it was just an okay. It wasn't a special.
No, if it's okay, then probably not. But if it's something I enjoyed, yeah, I'll
Okay.
pay top
So
dollar.
what the book looks at is, if you're not willing to sell me that bottle for 100, yeah,
Yeah.
but you're willing to drink it, then you're basically saying that that bottle is worth more than 100. If you're being logical in that particular situation, if I've come and offered you 100 for that bottle and you're not willing to sell it to me, but you drink it, that's basically saying that this bottle is worth 100 or more, which then means if you were to go to a restaurant or whatever, you would pay 100 for this bottle. So the reason why the book sort of looks at that is because it talks about
Okay.
something called opportunity cost. Yeah. So it looks at opportunity cost versus what it classes as out of pocket cost. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's a business studies, boy.
Exactly. So when it says opportunity cost versus out of pocket cost, is basically trying to tell you that we value things that we own, yeah, that we have in our possession, more than something that we don't have. Yeah. So the perfect example of this is something called loss aversion. Yeah. Whenever you invest in shares, yeah, it hurts you more when you lose than if you win the same amount. Like I could talk about like Bitcoin, yeah. The time when I lost, I think it was 1,000, 2,000 on Bitcoin, I was thinking about that for such a long time. But I've got other investments that I've made over 1,000, 2,000. It doesn't give me the same amount of joy than the amount of pain of the loss. So the book sort of looks at it, and it basically evaluates that a pain, so a loss, yeah, the pain of a loss is double than the pleasure of a gain. Because when we already have something and we lose it, it hurts more than just potentially gaining something. The book sort of looks at the difference between a buyer and a seller. If someone was a buyer and trying to sell something, they would more likely give a higher price. then if they were buying that product, they would probably look to buy at a lower price. So it talks about how that's not rational in terms of the mindset. So the reason why I picked up the book and why I really particularly liked the book was just because now that I've started a few businesses on the side, I'm sort of looking at the book and on how you frame certain things. So how do you market a particular product when you know the mindset of a buyer or a typical buyer? So that's sort of the book. It covers like multiple different examples, multiple different theories that you can look into. I'm not sure if you guys have any other questions. Otherwise, we can sort of wrap up there.
Actually, probably one question I had from my side is when you
Yeah.
were reading it, what was the? Did you have any big revelation moments where you were like something just clicked, like, oh, this makes sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was just more around the opportunity cost. So they talked about another example
Mhm.
of there were these guys that were given a free ticket, like a free ticket to a basketball game or to an event, and it was snowing or whatever, so they decided not to go. So they asked them, "Oh, if you guys had paid the value of this ticket, like the £100 or whatever price for this ticket, would you have gone?" And they said, "Yeah, we would have sort of done whatever it took to go because we paid for it." So that opportunity cost made me start to think that I should stop valuing stuff based on if I paid for it or if I didn't pay for it, but truly what is the value of that particular item or what is that value of that opportunity. So I'm not looking at it as, oh, I paid for it, I didn't pay for it, but more just looking at, okay, this is worth X amount, and let me just
Okay.
live to that based on that value of it, not just devalue it just because I didn't pay for it, etc. But also understanding that that's how people think. So another good one is like when you employ someone, they were saying that it's better to, like commission. A lot of people get like commission and whatever. So one day when I get my business and I need to hire a CEO, yeah, I'm gonna say to the guy, I'm gonna be like, if you hit a certain target, most people say if you hit a certain target, I'm gonna give you a push. Yeah. But the book says the best thing to do, because the person can't really value that. Or if you hit a certain target, I'm gonna give you a push. They can't value that because they don't have the push. The book says the best way to do that is give the person the push the first day and say, I'm gonna take this away from you if you don't hit your target. So now because that person's already
I like
experienced
that. I
that,
Interesting.
like that.
That's
I
they
like
interesting.
already
that.
experienced that car and they
I
now
like
felt it.
that.
Now they're more.
Forget that, man. I'll run that car ragged and I'll resign.
Obviously, you have exceptions like Daniel, who are, but no, by the person having that car, they're gonna work a different way. They're gonna they're gonna value already, and they're gonna want to keep it. So that book gives you sort of different mentalities of how do you think and how do other
That's a
people think.
solid
So yeah,
point. But actually, only probably this is the final comment from my side. Just thinking in reverse. What about the logic of? So basically, the point is, if you give people something and then you take it away, they'll appreciate it
yeah,
more, and it will kind of influence them to behave in a certain way. But what about the example when kids who have
yeah,
grown up in wealthy scenarios or wealthy families, when they grow up,
yeah.
they kind of lose the value of money, or they lose the value of that because they haven't earned it themselves.
Yeah, I think the book doesn't go
Just
into that
thinking out
specific
loud.
example that I can recall. I think for me personally is I think every parent tries to create a better lifestyle for their children. It's going to be natural. Like our kids are going to have a certain level of privilege that we
Yeah,
never had. Yeah. Me personally, that's something I've always
yeah,
struggled with or struggled with the understanding because I can't remember where I read it, but it was like, why is it that every son of a king or a wealthy person sort of ruins the dynasty? You see so many stories where it's like a king passes down all his wealth and everything to his son, and then the son just destroys the whole dynasty. So I was like, okay, how do you sort of address that, and what's the answer? And personally, I think is you need to create some sort of adversity within within reason, but some sort of adversity within that structure, the wealth structure that you have. So unless you create some sort of adversity, they're not going to value money. Like, okay, when I had to buy my first car, I had to save all of it myself. When my kids buy their first car, I might say, whatever you save, I'll double it. So you create like it's better situation for them by making them value that car, making them work for it. So you got to create some sort of adversity so that they can value it, in my personal opinion.
Great, man.
Thank
So
you.
do you mind saying the name and the title again one more time?
Yeah, so it's Misbehaving. So the making of behavioral economics by Richard.
Dope. Daniel, do you want the closing honors?
Nah. Thank you very much for listening to episode 26 of Take Flight Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. Have a great week. God bless.
Take off, take flight with you.